Nope. Alrighty, guys. Sorry, we're always late. We were trying to get YouTube up as usual, and it just like their platform is for going live is absolutely trash. Absolutely trash. I don't know who is in charge of that area of YouTube or whatever it is, but man, they deserve an absolute F rating. Like, fire them immediately. Like, every time you try to connect to go live on YouTube, it is a problem. And you have to log in, log out, log in, log out. Like, everything is just Monday vibes for sure. No doubt on YouTube as well. Check in live here. All right. So, anyways, for those of you that do tune in on YouTube, we always upload the videos after if we can't get live on YouTube. So what we do is we shoot the video, we go live on Facebook, we go live on TikTok, and then of course we upload the video to YouTube later if we're not able to get YouTube to run. Sometimes we log in, go live, and it works immediately. Majority of the time we try to go live and we get sent to a buffering screen indefinitely, and we try to log in, log out, log in, and then sometimes it'll work and then sometimes it doesn't. What the bottom line is I mean, YouTube is a absolute nightmare when it comes to live streaming. They're an absolute joke. So we apologize for coming in late, but that's not going to hurt the podcast because we will go a little bit late. So big things to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about Dr. Royal Raymond Rife, the inventor of the first Rife machine. We're going to talk about how he cured cancer with a Rife machine. We're going to talk about the federal government coming in and shutting him down after he cured cancer. And we're going to talk about the whole conspiracy behind Dr. Rife and the first Rife machine, and why they shut down that research, why research and a doctor who cured cancer was not further pursued. We're going to dive into all of that. Before I get lost on my rant, you got to understand that this one is obviously a little bit close to me. That is a conspiracy theory that I hold near and dear to my heart. It affects me personally. Obviously, my life and my businesses are intertwined with that entire conspiracy theory. Even though that happened 100 years ago, it is still something that we feel the effects of today. So, before we get into that rant, the first thing I want to touch on is a little bit of a Charlie Kirk update. It is absolutely just, I'm flabbergasted at the sheer Looney Tune-ness of our societies right now. You have the left that's gone way off the deep end, the far left. They are making up all kinds of stories, lies. They're outright just cheering for murder. And I mean, in my head, I'm just like, I mean, even when George Floyd was killed on camera that day, there was not a single conservative cheering for it. There was nobody on the right cheering for it. As a matter of fact, there was a lot of people on the right including myself, who wanted the cops held accountable. People on my side of the political spectrum, we do not like cops to operate above the law or constitution, period. And we believe that the ability to defend yourself with deadly force is the same all around, period. Whether you're a cop, just a normal average citizen, a elite billionaire CEO, or a president. It doesn't matter what you are. In America, you can only defend yourself with deadly force if you feel your life is threatened, if you feel your bodily harm is threatened, or someone in your care, period. Beyond that, there's no self-defense beyond that. Don't get me wrong. If someone's breaking into your house and you stop them from breaking into your home, if someone tries to carjack you and you try to stop them from carjacking you, you have a right to deadly force. That doesn't mean when someone comes running up and is like, I'm going to take your car, and you say, no, you don't. And then they go running away from you, that you just get to shoot them in the back. That is not how self-defense works. Self-defense works means when you stand in front of what you're trying to protect, that threat continues to try to go through you to get what you're trying to protect. And then you have the right to defend yourself. I do believe there are some gray areas in that whenever a threat is making a tactful move to better position themselves to take you down, to get to you, to cause you death or bodily harm or something you're trying to protect, that you do have the right to not allow them an advantage on you. That gets into a gray area. The bottom line is, the best way I've ever heard it said, that if someone means to do me or my family harm, I will do whatever it takes to protect them. Beyond that, it is a crapshoot. I believe the same thing for law enforcement. I believe the same thing for politicians. I believe the same thing for powerful, corrupt CEOs. I believe across the board, doesn't matter who you are. In America, if you mean to use deadly force for self-defense, the rule is, if someone means to do you or your family harm, you'll do whatever it takes to protect them. Beyond that, it is a crapshoot. And a lot of people like to live above that law. A lot of corrupt politicians like to live beyond that law. A lot of judges, corrupt law enforcement, federal law enforcement, military, you name it, like to live above the laws of self-defense. They believe that they are special. They believe that they have unique grants to them that doesn't apply to the rest of society, because they believe that their job constitutes it, or their mission, or whatever it may be, that they're allowed to do what they want when they want. And I believe the same case was done in the situation of George Floyd. Those cops were arrested and they were prosecuted for that very thing. Unfortunately, it takes an entire movement to get behind a situation when cops are often brought to justice. I have my own situation that involved federal law enforcement that we will be sharing on the show soon. We'll build up to that. I really want to share this story. There's just a lot of legal things still in place about how corrupt law enforcement came after me. They came after Rife machines, and they came after us trying to speak freely. And we defeated them in court, barely walked away with my life on multiple circumstances. Now, that said, I just told you that little bit of the story to tell you when lawyers and courts actually go after law enforcement. From my situation, I tried to find a lawyer to help me file charges against the prosecuting attorney and the federal agents that used excessive force and violated constitutional rights to come after me, even lied under testament and presented false statements and false evidence, falsified evidence to a grand jury to get an indictment on me. And the lawyer reviewed all of this and he was like, absolutely. They absolutely did that. Here, right here, you have it documented in their own discovery. Discovery is the mountain of evidence, paperwork, and files and everything that the federal law enforcement has to give you and your lawyer when they prepare to send you to jail and they're prepared to go to court with them. And in their own discovery, they showed where they falsified evidence. And I showed that to a lawyer, and he was like, "You're absolutely right. All these things were real. They happened." He was like, "Now, to get a court or a judge to vote in favor of having charges or damages given to you by the court is going to be hard." And I was like, "Well, why? They broke the law. They did something where they abused their position of power. They did things that's I'm supposed to be protected by the Constitution." He's like, "You're right. They did. But the courts are so tied up." And he explained to me, "Let me explain to you what the courts save because they only have so much bandwidth." And it's like they always took cases like yours. There would be no room. Like there's no way they would hear them all. He's like, "Let me give you an example of what they do accept." And it involved Alabama state troopers, an Alabama sheriff and sheriff's department, and I believe it was Arkansas state troopers. And they handcuffed a 17-year-old boy and sat him on his knees on the ground, walked away from him, turned around, pulled out their gun, and shot him in the back. And they were like, "That's what the courts are reserved for." Because apparently that happens so frequently that the court has to hear extreme cases like law enforcement handcuffing a child, a minor, and putting them on the ground on their knees in handcuffs and walking away from them and drawing their weapon and shooting them in the back. And it's like those extreme cases are so frequent that apparently the courts and everything else have to be left up to that. And then so cases like mine where falsified evidence and excessive force and other things like that don't really matter. So prosecuting attorneys, AUSAs, federal law enforcement, local law enforcement, they just get to kind of break the law. If they don't like you or they want to harass you or they want to prosecute you or whatever it may be, they just get to do that. And there's no real repercussion for it. You can go try to find a lawyer. If you live in places like Houston or New York or LA, you might have a better chance of finding a lawyer that'll take your money and bring it to the courts and drag it along. And just maybe out of a crapshoot, you'll actually get a hearing. Now, what you get awarded, who knows? But for most states, especially conservative states, red states, there's very few of those attorneys that are even willing to listen to your lawsuit. And there's even less courts and judges that are willing to listen to it. Blue states have their failures, but red states are no different. And if law enforcement or federal law enforcement decides to do anything to you and break the law outside of shooting you in the back and almost taking your life and causing grave bodily harm to you or someone you love, your chances of getting any kind of justice is almost non-existent. It's virtually non-existent. It's just non-existent. I don't even know why I'm saying it. It's non-existent. Maybe you know some high up attorney that you can feed a bunch of money to, that you can make them drag all them to court and cause them a bunch of hell and inconvenience their life. You might even get them fired over the whole situation. But you being awarded justice in any way is very low. A great example of that is what happened to George Floyd. I mean, he had to be killed on television in front of multiple witnesses just for those cops to see jail time. If you went and did that to anybody right now, cops would take you at the scene very harshly. They're not gentle. They would threaten to kill you. They would put guns in your face. They would haul you off. Then they would go search your home. And there would not be an ounce of respect. There would not be an ounce of courtesy or politeness. If you got away from the scene and you were in your home, they would kick down your door in the middle of the night, shoot your dog if it so much as looked at them, shoot you if they thought that even remotely you were reaching for a gun or anything else. You came out of the bedroom, you didn't know who was breaking into your house in the middle of the night, you have a gun in your hand. Plenty of stories about that. They raid your whole home, they tear it up, tear up your yard, make you look ridiculous in front of all your neighbors and everything else. But when they do it, there has to be a whole movement just for them to go turn themselves in at a courthouse. So I say all of this because I look at the Charlie Kirk situation in the same light, but on the opposite spectrum. You have the extremeness of the left, the extremeness of the right. The extremeness of the right often comes from military and police and the excusing of their behavior. The extremeness of the left often has it cheering radical behavior. Now, one is easily put on a pedestal, and that's like, well, you know, I back the blue, and I'm pro-military, and you know, our politicians and our law enforcement are doing it, and I'm just for what they're doing. Well, the left is just cheering for the people that had the balls to stand up. Like, well, this is what I believe in. And what we fail to see is that both sides are wrong. The Charlie Kirk thing is easy to look at and be like, wow, the left is absolutely disgusting. Like, they are openly cheering for the murder of somebody who had nothing but a difference of opinion. He never encouraged violence. He never encouraged force. He never encouraged physical force. Nothing. Just like, I just don't agree with that. That's it. It's easy to outline that absurdity, just like it's a little less easy for everybody to see the absurdity of when you cheer for law enforcement to oppress your political or your ideological opposition. But looking at everything, I think there's very heightened tensions. We're trying to follow the story closely so we can come back to all of y'all and give y'all a pretty, you know, interesting or accurate assessment on what is going down, what is to come. I do believe that the Charlie Kirk thing has been a crossing the Rubicon, if you will, to where a lot of people on the right are super willing to get physical now. To where on the right, people were very much, they were tolerant, they were scared. They didn't want to be called names. They didn't want to be called intolerant. So they tried to walk. They were very patient. They didn't say things. And they didn't engage, to where the left kind of had free reign. They engaged in physical force, physical violence, rioting, calling names, saying very racial slurs. They did all of these different things. And the right was expected to be very patient, not say anything, not do anything. And I think you have seen the end of that. I think Charlie Kirk has become the end of that. And I think you're seeing a lot of white people, a lot of MAGA people, a lot of conservatives who are like, I'm done being patient. The name calling will be confronted with name calling. The physical violence will be confronted with physical violence. And that's a dangerous place to be. Now, I am 100. I'm the guy who's just like, well, if it takes somebody being killed like Charlie Kirk for you to finally stand up for yourself, well, obviously there's a problem. There was already a problem. Like you're weak, you're pathetic. You should always stand up for yourself. You should always stand up for the truth. You should always stand up for your family, regardless of what you're being called or what you're doing. And if you were like that, we probably would have never gotten to the Charlie Kirk situation. And it's upsetting to say it that way because I know a lot of people are upset. I know a lot of people are ready to defend, and a lot of people don't want to see the next Charlie Kirk. A lot of people are just sick of the violence from the left. People who will pick up guns and say, we'll kill you with guns until you outlaw guns. And it's like, but what is the right there? There it's like, well, we come in peace. It's like, man, George Washington said, if you want peace, prepare for war. And I think you have seen a major slip on the right where everybody was just kind of like, we're just going to cower down, we're going to grovel, and we're going to take this high road of like, well, we didn't do anything. We didn't react to this. We didn't react to that. And that's led us to the Charlie Kirk situation. And now, finally, a lot of people on the right have like, nope, I'm done with it. I am done. You want to come at me with violence? I'm coming back with violence. You want to come at me with name calling? I'm coming back with name calling. You want to call me a racist? I'm going to call you a racist. You want to call me a scumbag? I'm going to call you a scumbag. You want to call me a fascist? I'll call you a fascist. Now the energy's being matched. And it's unfortunate in the sense that what the left is doing is very extreme. And now you have the right willing to match that extremism. And it's just kind of, it has the ability to snowball in a pretty terrible way for a lot of people that like Erna, that have nothing to do with either side, that don't care, that don't have the means to defend themselves, that don't share the violence of one side or the other. And it's like, look at what happened to her. Caught up in a multiculturalism war, a race war in America. And she had nothing to do with it. She was just fleeing the war-torn Ukraine, hoping for somewhere safer. Unfortunately, came to a place that stab each other and shoot each other over football teams. And unfortunately, we're doing the same thing over skin color right now. And so when I see the buildup of the right, of what's going on with Charlie Kirk and everything else, I'm like, man, it's scary to think where we're going to go. The right's going to respond to the left with the same thing that the left is responding with, and it doesn't look good. The left doesn't look like they are settling down. A couple of things where they found the FBI arrested 2 people because they found a bomb on a car close by in Utah University where the shooting took place. Oh man, you got some African American black dude who decided to whip out his dick and piss on a little kid in a movie theater in Arizona, and a bunch of white people jumped him. And he decided to just pull out his privates and start peeing on a little white kid in the middle of a movie theater in Arizona. And I mean, white people from every side just decided to jump him. And a lot of people are like, good. I'm like, well, yes, defending the kid is good. Being in a situation where a grown black adult male thinks it's okay to pull out his penis and pee on a little kid in a movie theater in the first place, a terrible place to be. And it has been the lack of response and defense that's led to there. When you're defending all the time, there's no need for violence. It's called Velvet Revolution. Look it up. It's revolutions with zero bloodshed or very little of it. When you decide to not be a man, to not stand up, to not think for yourself, to not lead your family, to not protect those around you, and I don't mean just your family or your neighbors, I mean everybody, the young, the sick, the elderly, the weak, you end up in situations like Erna. That's the young 23-year-old Ukrainian woman who was stabbed to death on a public transport system in North Charlotte, North Carolina. Because when there's always the people standing up for that, you don't have those problems. Deciding when things get bad enough, you'll start standing up. Well, they've often gotten too bad to even fix. And then if you do fix it, it often comes with a lot of violence and a lot of bloodshed. George Washington, if you want peace, prepare for war. You sit around watching football games and playing Call of Duty and being lazy and being like, oh, well, I'll worry, about my family. And I go to work and I'm taking care of that's all I got to worry about. Well, what about when they forced your kid to wear a mask to go to school? The one of the most torturous things I can imagine doing to a young child. They forced you to get them a vaccine to go to school. Not the first one. There's many states that make you get multiple vaccines just to go to school. Well, that's nothing to you. No defense there. What about when they started teaching kids sex ed? Oh, well, it's just sex ed. Every kid needs to wear that. Okay, well, now it's done by a transgender in a library, some grown adult man in a mini skirt with his balls hanging out, teaching kids about chopping off their privates. But it's not your problem, is it? Oh, it's not your problem. You go to work and you're saving money for your kids' college. The very college that indoctrinates people to the degree of this Tyler Robinson guy who's so fucked up in the head that he thinks it's okay to go shoot people that have a difference of opinion. That's what you're saving money for. Congratulations, you've done what it takes to be a man. No. You're going to leave them with nothing. No clean oceans to fish from. No forest to hunt. No clean vegetables that don't involve GMO farming. No air without chaffing in it and other heavy medical particles. No water. Now, you think the water in Flint, Michigan's bad? The state of Alabama makes my county send us a report because our water is so bad. Stuff that even filters can't get out. We have to buy our water here. But as long as you're going to work, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to do a whole episode on that one day. As a matter of fact, I got a really good meme that I'm going to show that I'm going to start with, and I'm going to do a whole episode on that. So this episode, I've just kind of digressed. This episode is supposed to be about the conspiracy of Rife. Now, before we're switching gears, I'm getting off the Charlie Kirk law enforcement. We are going to do a huge episode on that one day about law enforcement and how it was like, man, law enforcement has all this freedom now. All this force, all these weapons, armored personnel carriers, they have all of this stuff. The NDAA Act, the Patriot Act, the NSA, unlimited resources and spying in violation of constitutional rights. But we're still in a more dangerous country than we've ever been in before. But they made us think. That was like, oh, you don't do this for us. If you don't outlaw guns, if you don't get concealed weapon carry permits, if you don't let the NSA illegally spy, if you don't allow us to do warrantless searches and violate the Fourth Amendment, then you're not going to be safe. Well, we're still not safe. We've been doing that for decades now, and we're still not safe. So how much more does it take? Do you want every American in a padded room, in a straitjacket being fed through plastic tube? Is that what it takes? Somebody asked law enforcement what it actually is going to take. You have everything we didn't want you to have. And you took it without the permission of the people, or you ran a smear campaign or a fear campaign to make those people be like, I guess you can do that. And now law enforcement spends more time pulling Karens over for rolling through a stop sign when nobody else is around at 3 a.m. and giving them a ticket than they do investigating rape kits or prostitution rings by MS-13 on the street corners. They're more worried about being down here in Orange Beach, Alabama, and being like, oh, well, your registration's out of date on your boat. It's like, okay, what about the 14 kilos of cocaine that just washed up on the shore? Where were you for that? But they'll make you believe, oh, well, we gave this person a ticket for not having registration on his boat because these 4 teens just died because they were drinking and driving and fell off the boat and the boat ran them over. It's like, I'm sorry if I don't see how they relate. Do your fucking job. But what it is, they stay out of the crime-ridden neighborhoods. They don't pull over the crime-ridden vehicles. They don't go after the violent criminal gangs. It's like, what are you doing in my neighborhood? They're still down there selling drugs, trafficking children, and raping women. What are you doing in my neighborhood? Maybe you don't have time to pull over Karen because her taillight's out to see if she's drinking and driving. Maybe you should be down there in the neighborhood where they're raping people and selling drugs by bulk. We're going to do a whole episode on that. I'm sorry, I got a little rampant. We're going to switch gears into Rife conspiracy. There's a whole conspiracy with Charlie Kirk. There's a whole conspiracy with Mossad right now. There's a conspiracy with Jeffrey Epstein and Pam Bondi and you name it. I would say the only cabinet member that Trump has appointed that has done a somewhat respectable job that we expected since they got in office was Tulsi Gabbard. And she got appointed to where she got appointed, and she's worked to generally bring things to the light of the intelligence communities that are unacceptable. And that's all she can do. Now, rather they actually get prosecuted through the courts or the Trump administration or anybody else, well, who knows? But the conspiracy of Rife. Now, before we go into this, I do want to talk about, I had somebody reach out to me and they were like, Hunter, I really like it if you would do a video or a podcast about what are the benefits of using a Rife machine if you're healthy, if you don't have pain. Like, let's just say like there's nothing wrong with you, you don't have pain, none of that, but you know you're getting older and maybe pain is coming and, you know, maybe immobility is coming and everything else. They're like, man, could you do an episode kind of talking about the benefits of people like that who don't have anything wrong with them, but may still want to use a Rife machine to benefit them and to benefit them as they age? And I was just like, wow, like that's a great idea. Like, what a great idea for a video and for a podcast. So what I've done is I've actually asked them to join me on the podcast one day so that they can ask questions from that normal standpoint of being a normal person. Because I'm a Rife guy. I build Rife machines. I know a lot about Rife machines. So I'm going to go off on just a tangent and a rant about how it can help you, how it can promote you and your body, how it can slow down aging and how it can prolong pain and joint and all this other stuff that you find when you age. And I don't know if that's exactly what everybody's looking for. So I've asked them to come on the podcast and I was like, I'm going to talk about it and I want you to stop me and ask the questions that are important that people are trying to find out, instead of me just getting into a scientific rant about how a Rife machine can be extremely beneficial to those who don't need it, to those people who are healthy, who don't have pain, who don't have problems and don't have symptoms and ailments. And it just goes right back to, I tell people, I'm like, the people who find me, the people who find Rife machines and are willing to spend the money and buy Rife machines are always the people who have nowhere else to turn. And then they expect a miracle from a Rife machine. And the Rife machine can oftentimes deliver miracles to those people. It's incredible. That's why I'm passionate about it. It did it for me. It's done it for other people I love. It's done it for people that have reported back to me, customers and friends and stuff like that. So it's done incredible things, and that's why I'm passionate about spreading the word. But the incredible abilities of a Rife machine, if you can actually find me and you actually put up the money before you're in so much pain or you're so far gone or anything else that you have no other choice because modern medicine can no longer help you, is the glory of that is like you would never be in that position if you find a Rife machine first. If you start running it for basic optimization of health, parasite cleanses, heavy metal detox cleanses, liver health, 7.86, the Schumann resonance, which is a great cell regeneration frequency, and things like that, you'd be amazed at the problems that people come to me with way down the road, expecting a miracle from a Rife machine. Would never happen because you're doing a preemptive, you're being proactive to your health. The number one reason people end up with an ailment or a symptom that cannot be treated by modern medicine and causes pain, discomfort, immobility is oftentimes because they were not proactive with their health. Being proactive with your health, even if it's a genetic trait that you were born with, being proactive before it gets terrible and immobilizing and painful and starts taking away major parts of your life is super important. And one of the best ways to do that is with a Rife machine. Do maintenance, do blood cleansers. You got cancer that runs in your family, there's a blood cleanser sequence specifically for cancer that proactively helps you not get cancer. You got problems with that runs in family, headaches, eczema, inflammation, arthritis. You can do parasite cleanses. Parasite cleanses are almost the number one reason for all of those things that we get in our older age. You got brain fog, you have trouble sleeping, insomnia. You wake up, it's hard to wake up, it's hard to get out of bed. You got to snooze 13 times before you get out of bed. You crave sugar right out of bed. Craving sugar is one of the number one things, the number one evidence that you need to do a parasite detox. That is the parasites literally manipulating the neurological signals going through your nerves, telling you to crave sugar because it is the main food source for parasites and parasite reproduction. It also causes brain fog, causes headaches, causes allergies, skin problems, skin aging, skin wrinkles, hair falling out, nails crumbling, joint pain, inflammation. And I'm not even going to get into the heavy stuff that parasites cause. Heart failure, anxiety, liver problems, cancer. If you want to add the most important thing you'll probably ever add to your proactive health routine, it will be a Rife machine. Now, I'm not going to say it's above drinking clean, good water, having a good, clean diet, and exercise, because I believe in that the most. I really do, period. but a Rife machine is absolutely the next best thing you can do. If you're not doing all three of those, the very next thing, like those three things are what a Rife machine can do. And you need to be doing those three things. If you're not doing those three things, you need to be. And I don't just mean one. You got to do all three. Clean water, clean, healthy food. And I'm not talking about dieting and eating salads. I mean clean, healthy food. No sugars, no preservatives, no seed oils, no high fructose corn syrup. Eat real food. Fresh vegetables, fresh meat, and not the pink stuff you get in the grocery store. Find a local farmer. Get the stuff out of the grocery store that's from a local farmer. Ground meat should be brown, not pink. Steak, chicken, lamb, pork. I don't mean hot dogs. Real food. That's what I mean by healthy food. I don't mean dieting. I don't mean keto. I don't mean salads. Fresh vegetables, real meat. Not homemade dinners you find in the frozen section. What I mean by clean water, not water that comes out of your refrigerator. You can filter water and make it safe. You can't filter water and make it healthy. Healthy water is a mixture of vitamins and minerals that it gets whenever rain falls down and it runs through the earth, picking up vitamins and minerals from the ground, from dirt, rocks, sand. That's where the taste of water comes from. A lot of people are like, water has no taste. And they could not be more wrong. If you've ever tasted pure water, it is absolutely disgusting. Water's taste comes from vitamins and minerals that it picks up by filtering through dirt, sand, rocks, minerals, metals, leaves, wood. Do those three things first. Add a Rife machine to it. And the things that you will come back to me when you're older and you can't move and you have debilitating pain and immobilization and discomfort will never happen because you're using a Rife machine up front. Now, I am going to hope that he takes me up on my offer to come on the show and talk about that. That's all I'm going to speak about it today. With a little bit of time we got left, and I know this is what we said the whole show was going to be about. Unfortunately, we kind of got off into a whole bunch of different other things. So, Rife machine conspiracy. Who invented the first Rife machine? That was Dr. Royal Raymond Rife. He invented the first Rife machine in the 1920s. It wasn't his original work. So what Dr. Rife was doing was he invented the microscope that was way more powerful than anything anybody had invented to date. And he started being able to observe things at a level that we didn't know how to understand. And so he's observing these things and he started to theorize like, wow, he's like observing cells on a cellular level with this microscope. And he started to theorize like, man, I think all these cells are oscillating. Well, what are they oscillating to? And he's like, they got to be oscillating at a frequency. And so he's like, I think if we can oscillate an electromagnetic field at the same frequency, that it may affect these cells. And so he did that. Once he was able to discover the frequency of some cells, he started doing that. And he was like, oh, it does affect them. It paralyzes them. It weakens them. It makes them not move. And it doesn't affect any other cell, just that one that's oscillating at that frequency. And so he started theorizing like, man, I think you could do that with cancer. And if all the cancer cells suddenly became inert or paralyzed, non-ambulatory, It's like your good cells would come in and start eating it. It would just come in, it would naturally come in because it can't defeat it, right? Like cancer cells, they're stronger than your cells, and that's how they can take hold in your body and keep growing and growing and growing. It's because your body cells can't beat it. He's like, but if I can weaken them, and then the good cells come in and start fighting them, well, they could beat it and overtake it and remove it from the body. Like an MMA match, right? If you look at cancer cells as a champion MMA fighter and your cells being a novice MMA fighter, but then you give this champion MMA fighter, you give him a bunch of mustard gas or whatever else, give him the flu, and suddenly this guy can barely walk, and then all your novice fighters just come in, they're like, all right, we'll beat the crap out of you and drag you out of the ring. Well, that was essentially what he was theorizing could happen with cancer cells. Is you weaken them to the point that your average cells could come in, beat up the bad cancer cells, and take it out of the body. And it turns out he was right. He found the frequency of cancer. I'm going to say that again. He found the frequency of cancer. And he was like, he took 14 terminally ill cancer patients. He put them all through trials, Rife machine trials. And he would use an electromagnetic field and sound waves at the frequency of the cancer cells. And he was able to drastically weaken the cancer cells. So eventually, the 14 terminally ill cancer patients were cancer-free. There was no traceable amounts of cancer left in their body. And I mean, you're talking stage 4 plus, like they were set to die. And he healed them all. No side effects, no pain, no intrusive surgeries, nothing. Just ran a Rife machine on them. And they all walked away scot-clean. Now, the results of that was the federal government came in immediately after, and they destroyed his entire lab and confiscated a bunch of his research and barred him from ever working on any kind of Rife cancer, anything like that again. And they threatened him with prison time if he did. And so he did. Now, that said, research survived that raid. That's how I came to build Rife machines. I worked with the Rife family to develop Rife machines. That's how I know how to build Rife machines today. But let's explore the conspiracy. Why in the world could such healing technology? See, this was my first conspiracy theory when I was young that I heard about. You know, I'd heard about things here and there, JFK, this, that, Twin Towers, blah, 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 blah. You know, I heard about things here and there. But the first one I ever heard that I was like, bullshit. There's no way. But I had to research it to find out. And the more I read, the more sad I got, the more mad I got. I became enraged to just think about a government or an entity that had so much control, and you had something that would truly help mankind and actually heal you in such an incredible way, that they would try to bury that. They would try to hide it from the world. I just couldn't understand. I couldn't grasp it. And so the more I read, the more I researched, it started to make sense. It's because that healing technology is reserved for the world elites. It's not for you and I. It's not for your average person. And it was about money. The number one thing was it was about money. The rich elite look at us like a pestilence. That's why there's so many laws of like, you can't swim here, you can't park here, you can't do this, you can't do that. And it's because they look at us like a pestilence. They don't want us swimming in their oceans, swimming on their lakes, driving down their dirt roads, walking through their wildlife management areas. They do everything they can to block it in any way that they can. And they don't want you to heal. They don't want you to live longer. I think Bill Gates says that openly when he talks about how they're going to use vaccines to reduce world population. That was something he openly said in a conference on a microphone. That's not my words. That's not conspiracy. Just look it up. Just Google it. There's videos of it all over the internet. It was written about in several people's books. Oh God, what is their name? The royal family in Saudi Arabia, the royal family of the UK, the Koch brothers, obviously Rothschilds, Rockefellers. Like they openly talk about it. If you just go read their books, they openly talk about it. And so they didn't want people having access to technology that could heal them in such incredible ways. But they also, it was more than that. They wanted to accelerate the rate that you died, which is like the big cover up of sugar, right? And it's like sugar is in everything in America, stuff that is banned in other countries. And that is 100% researchable. If you go to any other country, order a dessert and taste it. It don't taste like dessert. Anybody who is from other countries that come here, they can barely eat our cheeseburgers because they're so sweet, because there's so much sugar in the bread and the ketchup and the sauces and the oils. And that's a real thing. Like that's easily researchable. It's just not something that's promoted here in America. And it was like there was the sugar, the pharmaceuticals, and everything else, you name it. But it was a push, excuse me, a push towards being more unhealthy. And that was why when Dr. Rife found that incredible technology, had incredible ways to heal people, and called it the Rife machine. I don't even know if he called it that. I'm pretty sure that was just what people have called it since. It was, he found a unique ability to heal people and to heal them from the toxins, the drugs, and the viruses, and the bacteria, and all of the different things that a lot of very rich, powerful people wanted you more exposed to. And so you can kind of see where the raid came from and how they were rushing to cover that up. And you still don't know about this story today. So that's kind of like the great thing about me breaking it to you. A lot of you here, there's people who do know about frequency therapy and Rife machines and things like that. And they know about this conspiracy theory and what happened to Dr. Rife and all these different things. But it's still not something that's widely talked about today. It's not widely talked about like JFK. It's not widely talked about like 9/11. It's not widely talked about like the Epstein files, but it should be. You're talking about healing technology that can cure cancer, that the federal government suppressed and destroyed and wouldn't allow anybody to have except for rich, powerful elite, political elite, financial elite, celebrity elite, you name it. They have it. They use it every day. But they didn't want you to have it. They didn't want their peasants to have it. Because they want you exposed to the things that causes the most harm to life. Sugar, pharmaceuticals. And I'm not someone who hates on pharmaceuticals and vaccines and all of that different stuff. I've done the real research. I know what a real vaccine is. We used to give people real vaccines. We don't anymore. Vaccines today are nothing more than a bunch of lead, mercury, and aluminum. made to destroy your autoimmune system. Vaccines used to be a dumbed down form of a virus to introduce your body to it. One, again, that wasn't strong enough to overpower your good cells in your body, but enough that could get them ready for it. It's like introducing a novice fighter to a bunch of novice fighters, but we outnumbered them. Instead of catching the virus, which was a super champion MMA fighter that could easily overpower all the novices. And so real vaccines were administered in a way that was like we took a champion UFC fighter and we made it into a novice UFC fighter so they could be introduced to your body and your body could overcome it. And it would learn from it being introduced to it. And then your body would be able to be more prepared when it was introduced to the champion UFC fighter. That's how that's how vaccines worked. Today, vaccines are cocktails of death, most of them, in a lot of ways. And they're just made to completely destroy your autoimmune system. The idea of injecting yourself with mercury and aluminum and lead and other heavy metals with aborted baby fetuses and things like that, that somehow that makes you healthier and stronger is absolutely absurd. The science behind it is absurd. The logic behind it is absurd. The practicality behind it is absurd. But they want to expose you to those things, those toxins, those chemicals, and they want you to take that vaccine, and then they want you to go eat as much sugar as you can stand. Because those are the things that lower the average lifespan. Those are the things that make you docile and easy to manipulate and control. Those are the things that shorten lifespan, right? If I was to go into a hospital and they're like, oh, he died suddenly from heart failure, my family, my community, everybody would be up in arms. Like, he runs 3 miles a day and drinks 5 liters of water a day and eats nothing but steak and eggs and vegetables. They're like, bullshit. What was he exposed to? What happened? But if I was very out of shape and I ate a lot of sugar, drank a lot of sugar, a lot of Cokes, had bad habits, bad exercise habits, everything else, and I go into the hospital and they're like, oh, he died suddenly, heart failure. They're like, well, I told him he needed to lay off the Coke. I told him, it is a way to get you to be desensitized to medical ailment. And I'm going to follow everything I just said because I'm hinting towards something I'm not going to say directly. Here's the biggest hint I'm going to give to you. Medical malpractice is the third leading cause of death in the world. More people die by going to the hospital and the hospital making a mistake and it costing them the patient's life. That is the third leading cause in the world of how people die. The third leading cause of death. How convenient that you want us so unhealthy that the idea that we die in the hospital isn't so incomprehensible to our loved ones. And they can easily make excuses one way or the other. I told him he needed to lose weight. I told him they should have stopped eating and drinking so much of this. So that is the conspiracy behind Rife machines. Pharmaceutical companies will pay any amount of money to make sure that you don't have Rife machines. They'll pay any amount of money to smear campaign against them, to come after people, to destroy their labs, to shut them down, to do whatever they can. But we have created a movement, a growing resistance and rebellion and a revolution against the pharmaceutical companies. We are too big to come after. There are too many of us. There are way too many people supporting it to do what they did to Dr. Rife 100 years ago in the 1920s. And you being here tonight and supporting us and watching and buying Rife machines and buying Rife machine gear and talking to people about Rife machines, that is what makes it impossible to disappear again today. We have come somewhere. 100 years later, we can talk about it without being killed or threatened. Well, I mean, we're still threatened. They still pursue us. But they're not just going to come kill Hunter Samakel, who built Rife machines with the Rife family. Why? Because that would make me a martyr. And everybody would buy one tomorrow. Everybody would be up in arms. They would validate me. They can't validate me. There's an entire movement behind me experimenting with frequency devices and how frequency can heal you. And now modern day researchers and scientists, or surgeons, doctors, everybody are having to admit that yes, frequency is a way of healing. It accelerates healing. It can replace a lot of pharmaceuticals and other treatments. And there's no denying it anymore. So that is the big conspiracy behind the Rife machine, the first conspiracy, as I like to call it. I encourage everybody to go look into it. What you'll find on the internet today is a lot different than what you would find on the internet 20 years ago. So take it with a grain of salt. It's not exactly written the way it was 20 years ago or how it actually happened. It never is. We're often given about 10% of the entire story. So just know as you read the story, wow, there's 90% they're not telling me that I don't know about, that I'm not going to go into or talk about in my time with the Rife family. But I will say this, that Rife machines are real. They do help heal people. And the federal government and pharmaceutical companies are doing everything they can to keep our industry and our methods of healing and therapy in the dark. And the more people that use them and have a story and come to you and tell the next person, you know how we get the most sales is when someone uses it. Someone will use a machine and then they will tell 4 or 5 of their friends, and then 3 of them will come buy a machine because they can't believe the story. Because that's how unbelievable it is when you use a Rife machine. It's so unbelievable. You can't trust somebody that you love or know or are family with or have known your entire life. That's how unbelievable the story is, because we were taught and indoctrinated not to believe that there are things out there that can heal you that way. And that is why Dr. Rife was threatened. That's why his lab was destroyed. That's why he no longer pursued Rife machines. So, in wrap up, want to appreciate everybody being here. We'll be back tomorrow, and I will keep you guys updated. I really hope that we have this person on. That way we can go into how a Rife machine can help your average healthy person that doesn't have pain and ailments and symptoms, and how it's important to use one. And I really hope that he can ask from a normal point of view the important questions that people want to talk about, not just hear the sciencey, detailed rant that I go on whenever I answer questions like that. So I'll keep you updated about that. And we will be going into law enforcement and their fallacy when it came to the Charlie Kirk situation, law enforcement and their fallacy of what it came to the Erna situation, and how we've given law enforcement unlimited access to power, resources, weapons, and protection. And yet we find ourselves in more and more danger ever, but law enforcement seems to be safer and safer than ever. We will also go into Um, Obviously, my story eventually about how federal law enforcement tried to attack me and my family, um, and silence and suppress us. We have a lot of big things coming up for you. We also hopefully have some big guests coming on soon. I'm not going to say their names now, but I do want y'all to know like some really, really big, important guests that would be super awesome for you guys to hear about. They're going to talk about Rife machines and their experience with different frequency therapy devices and alternative therapy devices and healing devices. Again, this is just a huge industry, a huge community that is growing by the day. And our goal is to spread the message so that everybody can have that miracle story that we have had using these devices. So thanks for being here. We look forward to talking to y'all tomorrow. Dude, did you see this?